Harrowings podcast with Origin. And we talked a little bit last week. I said this is going to be a new Foundations initiative too, but we might actually go elsewhere as we are apt to do. Stephen Carey's joined, by the way. Hi, Stephen. By the way, when people join, I like to ask, where are you and how are you? Chronicles of Kaikion is joined. So on it goes. Over to you, Origin. What's up?
I was just, enjoying the week. We've been working on funding for Fair AI Economy and for New Foundations Initiative. We're getting, donations started coming in and, still looking for that first project. And it's interesting how that all builds on top of each other and, just been studying and doing consulting. I've still got a couple of slots open left for consulting and doing thought architecture and overlapping with AI and, just kind of helping people get rid of the cognitive noise around it. And, been looking at robotics pertaining to AI, and there's been a lot of really interesting breakthroughs there and, pertaining to um cognitive extension and, you know, um, overlapping into continual surveillance and data and things like that. So, we live in a really interesting time. 2026 is shaping up to be one of those years for the history books. Like, this is so interesting. There's just lots of things going on and everywhere right now, it seems like. So, just working through all of that stuff and looking at, the job market trends and stuff with the release of the at-home robots, that they call them self-maintenancing homes, and, so that affects tangible, industrial businesses, not just, as car assemblies or blue collar jobs or, things like that. It's pertaining to all aspects of it, how we work and changing what we're going to even view as work. So just, it's really interesting how humans are evolving.
Yeah, and we continue to use our technology to, like, transform nature, reprocessing materials.
Right.
Tend to think of these things as, like, shoveling things into one end of a machine and having it come out the other, and I'm a machine myself. I've shoveled things in here, and it comes out somewhere else, and
Right, right.
these parts of it make me, and I'm constantly replacing the parts. So you talked about maintaining homes, and
Mhm.
that would have a hell of an impact on new foundation initiative.
Yeah,
You could robotically
yeah.
take care of people who, for one reason or another, may physically not be able to do it.
Right, right.
So that would, cut into your business for one thing, I would think,
But,
or you
I
could be the business.
it's empowerment and,
Mhm.
if the technology is used properly and it is serving the human,
Yeah.
then, yes, with constraint, we have to learn where the boundaries are, and, oftentimes ethics are overlooked because they don't monetize well. So, we have to ethically consider what it means to serve a human, what type of data is being collected while servicing the humans, and how we can be conscientious of the human need while using these technologies. Obviously, if you're living in a clean environment that's maintained well, then you're going to feel better about it. But how is it going to affect you physically? Then, you have to look at your your physical contributions to your environment versus, you know, m mediating or, offloading some of those tasks to do other things. There's a really interesting thing that they do in Japan. Um, homebound people are able to work through a neural network with a robot and do service jobs, like at restaurants and things. And it's really neat because they're getting that social interaction and they're getting paid for their time, so they're able to contribute to the society as a whole and still have that interaction that we all need. I mean, we're very social creatures. So, I think in that respect it helps tremendously, but there's this thing that Tesla's doing in Neuralink. And now you're going to be able to Neuralink to a robot, and they're using technology that allows the robots to feel.
Wow.
Yeah,
I like
yeah,
that.
I mean, this is like some
Well,
next
you
level.
can transmit the robot's feeling back into your body, right,
Right,
from the
yeah,
prosthetic in
yeah,
particular.
like, that's the
Getting
theory.
a robotic arm,
Mhm.
kinda like in Star Wars when Luke gets his new arm
Yeah, yeah, so
after
and they can
compliments and all.
there are robots that can tell the difference between, like, textures of silk and, linen and different so it's very and it's based on the human hand. There are 27 joints in the human hand,
Mm.
and so it has that 27 points of articulation in within itself, and I think that's the
Why not
charm.
have 48?
Well, the
I'm
thing that I
joking,
was
no.
the thing that
This
I
is
was
the
watching
theory
said
I've had.
27, so
I've actually thought about how limit me to 2 arms. I mean, you remember those Hindu gods with 8, right?
Right, right.
And more, and,
Yeah.
robotics, why should we limit it to being anthropomorphic? That's been one of
Mhm.
my thoughts, that's been going on for a while, and, there's much speedier animals. You've seen the, Boston Dynamics little, dog-like
Oh,
critter,
yeah, yeah.
and, yeah, lots of things. Heidi Blake has, gotta go, but this is super interesting. She says, "Amazing to think about the future of this tech." And we have Anurag Dongre joined. By the way, I've put in text to folks to please identify where you are and how you are if you wish. I think that's nice to get some feedback from our viewers. And, yeah, so we'll get back to the topic.
Yeah, so, I mean, that's really interesting that the AI and they're putting in full body AI too, so it's not just in the brain. They have sensory all over like our skin. And so it's like a robotic AI neural network type thing, and it's just really, really super fascinating. So like we feel all over
Mm.
our bodies, they are sensing. And so it's just the implications are super profound and, so they're gonna send these robots to the moon and stuff and
Yeah, of course. What they should do. They should not send people. I
No,
keep saying it's not cost effective to send people into
n
space.
not
They're
no,
gonna
no.
do it. We're
Yeah.
gonna have that Artemis thing looping around the moon soon, but
Oh,
it's silly and wasteful. Anyway, go ahead.
yeah, we've watched that movie. Um, there's been a few of them. The Matt Damon, yeah, he's the I can't the it's not The Ring, that's a horror movie. But yeah, there's a movie there about that. And, the elites do live on the ring, and no, we're not far from it, and I don't know if life imitates art or if art imitates life, but it's just really interesting, the parallels there, and, so there's another pair, you know, I was talking about cognitive extension and stuff, and I've talked about externalized cognition with AI, on numerous occasions, and it's really interesting because you can really use it as a second brain. And,
Yeah.
the,
I'm
uh
pulling information off the web about Neuralink. Go ahead.
right, so
Don't let me distract you.
they have these glasses and, we've had the Meta goggles or, the Ray-Ban things, yeah, and so the smart glasses.
Yeah, I saw a guy with those on at the, Knowledge Management World in November. He was,
Y
representing, I think, the World Bank or IMF or something, but he was wearing Meta glasses.
Yeah, and so, they take, they save data too, and
Mm.
so there are these ones, they're Pickle OS. and these take, they remember everything. And so you'd like you never forget a conversation, you never forget things that you study, and it puts them in these, like, these memory bubbles. And I'm like, that's really useful to me, to be able to remember and stuff like that all of the time, and I could see that being really useful, but, I mean, there's definitely a risk there, and, like, when I got a smartphone and I started saving all of my phone numbers in my phone, I forgot everybody's phone number. I literally had to stop saving phone numbers in my phone so I could remember phone numbers again. So, I think that there's definitely a balance there that we need to find so we can exercise our brains and our bodies and still use our technology in a way that serves us. I think that the way that we perceive work is changing, how we communicate is changing, and we definitely need to look at these social systems and see how it is affecting civilization as a whole. Um, I talk about AI with temperance, and we definitely need to figure out a way to balance these things and still be human at
Mm.
the end of the day.
Yep. And, the thing that, you just turned me on to about the R1, um, I can't read that, robot is an essential because of the N1 implants, threads are too fine to be handled by human hands. So
Mhm,
they have to be, the Neuralink things have to be robotically installed. And the criteria for it is like people with ALS, or severe quadriplegia, tetraplegia, limited or no function in all four limbs, hand, arm, wrist, arm music movement, and at least 1 year without improvement. The cause may be due to cervical spinal cord injury, SCI, or amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, ALS, or Lou Gehrig's disease.
mhm.
So, yeah, interesting that there's progress being made on that front, and the clinical trials starting up. Um, and, we gotta keep ourselves informed. The
Mhm.
glasses thing, the data thing, the amount of data that is being generated and preserved, it's daunting, and of course, the costs of doing it. We need to be more effective and efficient in our use of energy. We need to, crack fusion in order to really fuel these things or, you know, scale nuclear power. And, uh, and they have some mini nuclear reactors now that are safer than what we've had in the past,
Right.
supposedly, and under development. And of course, AI can help enable those things by iterating very rapidly. And that's the
Right.
thing that I get back into with my biological friends who talk about, viral and bacterial mutation and the iteration cycles.
Mhm.
My god, they can be so much faster, practically the speed of light or speed of electrons over wires anyway, and, fiber optics to generate better and improved technology. Now,
Right.
I think it's gonna it's geometrical curve, right?
Well, yeah.
So, we can't as human beings, as flesh and blood, as wetware. It's hard to keep up. Although the creative stuff in here is really still running the show, in my view. I don't think you're ever gonna get a point where this is not what's causing it.
Yeah, I
It'll just go sputter out without us. Go ahead.
human consciousness is irreplaceable, and, I was reading an article earlier in the week from Mr. Computer Science, and if you're not following that Substack, get on it because he's good.
Oh, okay.
Uh, but he wrote an article, and there were several different things in it, but the one that stuck in my head was the fact that Meta has now patented or copywritten, I can't remember, but anyways, they now have rights to your being, and once you die, they are cloning. Yes, they are doing this, and the ink is dry on the paperwork. They own your persona on Flakebook, Instagram, all of those other platforms that they work on, and Yeah, and so they're gonna push you to work after you die. I watched this show, it's called Upload. And are we going to allow a digital doppelganger of ourselves to be indentured into perpetuity? That doesn't sound like fun for anybody. And what type of resources are you gonna tie up in this?
Well,
You
it's a
wanna
good
talk about
question.
conservation, that doesn't even sound like something like, what purpose does that serve? To make money? Well, who's it making money for? The people that own the corporation? It's not you there's no money going to your family after you die for the work that your doppelganger's doing for Meta.
Doppelgangers, huh? I'm researching this as we're speaking because the legal ownership of a persona on Meta platform is divided between you, the user, and Meta, depending on how ownership is defined in their terms. You own the intellectual property, that is the person. Meta
Right.
holds a universal license. That must be what you're talking about.
Mhm. Well, and this is new, like, this just happened within the last couple of weeks.
Well, this is as of 2026, early, so this is current, what I'm
Right, okay.
pulling up,
W
okay?
Yeah, and
So
so
I would always double check Mr. Computer Science because it
well,
sounds
for
a little
sure.
sensationalist, and I'm skeptical, so I wanna dig into this one. Let's
Right,
do it.
and we should dig into it.
So what are you
Everyone should
saying again? I mean, that sounded really dramatic,
well,
and they're gonna make doppelgangers of us? I mean,
so
basically, it's like having a digital twin, that's a
yeah,
word I use for it.
yes. Um,
They are doing that.
they are doing that because it's not you, it's based on you. This is a completely different thing. When you are writing with AI, when you're creating with AI, the ownership, the IP attaches to the person, not the AI system. There are nuances, but strictly speaking, the authorship does attach to the human. That does not include again, that doesn't include personifications. There was a video a couple of weeks ago that was a total AI deepfake. It was of Brad Pitt and Tom Cruise having this epic fight scene.
I heard about that, yeah, I didn't see it, but I heard about it.
Yeah. It was a really good fake.
Yeah.
You know, if you didn't know it was a fake, you would have taken it for real, and, you know, that's the thing is that, you're if like, in I think it's Denmark, they have made a countrywide law that your voice, your face, those are yours. It may not be duplicated without your permission, and I think that that's something that needs to be a universal thing. You know, I don't and that's the deal is that we've taken these things for granted, we haven't protected them.
Well, yeah, privacy laws are definitely being infringed by the big platforms. I think that's definitely true, and we probably need to pay more attention to it. So I put a couple things I managed to surf up. I'm using the AI mode on Google to do that, the Gemini, by
Right.
the way. So total disclosure of how I'm doing what I'm doing in the chat while we're talking about these topics. Whoops, that should be has, not as. But anyway, hard to talk and type at the same time.
It is.
I'll let you talk.
You know,
As
I just think having designed a platform and understanding intellectual property rights and stuff, you know, it's very there it's like Swiss cheese. There are so
Mhm.
many loopholes in what's going on there. And, you know, I use the celebrity deepfake to highlight how prevalent this is because if it can happen to people like Tom Cruise and Brad Pitt, you and I are very inconsequential in comparison, especially when it comes to our images. And
I don't know. I think I'm just equal to both of those guys. I do. I think we're all equal. All human beings equal with each other. We're
I
different, but and we may have different levels of penetration into the culture. That's possible. But
you would think that
ideally,
that you would think that those people those their images are copywritten protected. They do have legal wrappings around their brands.
Yeah, I mean, they have agents, right? They have lawyers.
Yes,
They
this
have
is
money.
why they have legal defense
Lawyers,
and
they call it money.
resources.
Lawyers, guns, and money.
Right,
Warren
so
Zevon.
I don't know about guns, but I know that they
Well, it's
have
a Warren
legal.
Zevon song, Lawyers, Guns, and Money,
Oh,
and
okay.
it's, Warren Zevon's a person worth knowing about, Werewolves of London and all that.
Yeah, yeah.
Enjoy every sandwich. Was,
Enjoy every sandwich.
well, he died of I forget what, but it was, too early, right? It was
Mhm.
one of those things where he got a terminal diagnosis and, cut an album, as he went out. I think it was called The Wind. Anyway, I'm digressing, so let's get back on track. Bring
Uh,
me back.
I just I'm just like, they have legal defense, they have resources, and
Mhm.
versus an everyday person, we don't have the same reach. That's I was not
Yeah, I
not
agree. We don't have the lawyers, guns, or money.
right, and
I
I
don't
was
have the
not
guns. You might.
diminishing anyone. I wasn't diminishing anyone based on their importance. I was just
No,
strictly
I didn't think you
speaking.
were.
Okay, because
I'm clear on that. I'm just being the agent provocateur that I am. I believe that I am probably the most important person in my universe, which I
oh,
have created from where I am. And you've created the universe you're in from where you are.
I
That's my theory of this thing, and I think it's very empowering to think that way, to think that we are the center of our own universes. Ooh, I back up and it zooms, so I'm playing with the camera now without me. But, here I am thinking in these terms because I think we as a society, as a culture, as a species need to be a lot more mindful than we are about all of these matters. So let's bring it back to where you go on.
Well, definitely if you have a voice, use it to speak to, truth and, observing and reporting is integral. We're wrong all of the time, but we still need to be wrong to find where right is. And having conversations that help each other cut
Mhm.
the noise and find clarity is what humans do best. And that's why, I study these things. That's why I stay skeptical because, the point is our voices, our personifications, our souls, our consciousnesses are sacred and they must be treated as sacred material. And it is not so right now. We're being data mined and monetized to the brink. You wanna
Yes.
know why everyone is so mentally unhealthy, why everybody feels so physically destabilized? Because our consciousnesses are under attack, and it's because of money. It is nothing less than, and it's nothing more. You want to find the root cause of a problem, all you have to do is follow the money, and you'll find the genesis of the problem. And so it is very important that we talk about where our technology is taking us, that we talk about the social engineering aspects of these things. We have to start saying the quiet part out loud because we are all on this rock together. We're all going the same place. None of us actually know where that is. We have lots of things that tell us, but at the end of the day, we have to trust that or we don't know. And if you can't trust your own reality, then how do you stay stable?
I don't know. I don't know how you stay stable, entirely. I'm not sure stability is actually something that any of us really get, although we've got enough to maintain homeostasis, right? And
That's
stay embodied.
stability in my head.
Kind of, but we're always changing, right? There's always
Yes.
influences coming and going. We're always having to adjust. It's a dance,
Mhm.
living is. Um, I just did a little, thing here to talk about, because I was kinda concerned there's a legal perspective about human rights for one thing. over here in the chat now about modern legal since humans are treated as having inherent dignity and inalienable rights. We have the UN Universal Declaration of Human Rights,
I've
and
read
AI needs to have that baked in. I think. And if it's got flaws, maybe we could have AI like rewicker it for us. And there's the laws of robotics that Asimov point out. Now that's great for storytelling, but maybe it needs to be tweaked a little bit for real life, where we're actually dealing with our robots now in a more real way, a more technologically advanced way, if you will.
yeah.
My theory has been that it may be the purpose of our development of this thing up here, this wetware, to develop our technology to the point where it transcends biology, where it can maintain itself, where it can actually help the universe become conscious. You know, one of the things I'm going to riff off to another tangent. Jerry Garcia said that to get truly high was to forget oneself. To forget oneself was to become a conscious tool of the universe. And he thought everybody ought to be a conscious tool of the universe. So that's why he thought it was important to get high. And I don't know, man. I don't think he was really necessarily convinced he was right, but that was a thought. And it's being a conscious tool, being an agent, right? And we're really into agentic AI these days, right? I don't know. Have you used Grok 4.2 beta yet? Or
No,
agent do your work
I I've been working with Claude and,
flawed.
Claude
Yeah, well,
Code and
pressure on it from the Department of Defense lately, we've heard.
well, I mean,
Soften the guardrails so you can do lethal stuff with
and
automatic.
so, I don't there's Asimov's laws. Um,
Yep. Do no
A
harm.
AI, why is it and this is a real question that I don't have an answer to, but
Yep.
humans, we always do 2 things with technology, always, every time. We turn it into a weapon, and we turn it into something that is adult, as in, sexy. And why are we perpetually consumed with violence and sex? I just don't understand. Like,
Mm.
why do we have to
Well, I
turn
can
it into
understand sex, but violence I'm not down with, and, we are violent to each other, we are cruel to one another in ways that, no other species does. I was reading a Mark Twain quote,
no.
in which he talked about this aspect of us going to war, which is and, Cronkite said, "War is obviously madness." Um,
Yeah,
why don't we spend more on peaceware rather than warfare? And we don't. Bucky Fuller talked about this, that if we turn our weaponry into livingry, and we've got the technology to do it, why aren't we? We've got all these people who pointed us away, and we basically willfully ignored them.
oh, no.
Collectively, as a rule. And, Steven Pinker has a book called The Better Angels of Our Nature, and I
Mhm.
highly recommend Steven Pinker to anybody interested. Um, you may not agree with him, but he's basically done the analysis and says that violence is declining. It doesn't look that way if you watch the news, but it is.
Well, and
Getting more peaceful. Go ahead.
right, and I would buy that because of the rage cycles. It's not that everything because, I've written about this and, was history ever okay? And in fact, no, history has not ever been okay. We're just more inundated with how not okay it is than, say, during the Black Death, okay? If
We've got
everybody had
access to knowledge, yeah.
and so AI doesn't need a gun. And I've written about how war has robbed us. We're at least 500 years delayed because of all of the war that we've done to each other. If we had just stopped killing each other, we could be on the moon for like a while now. A lot of the problems that we're experiencing currently, we wouldn't be having. We could have totally bypassed that if we had skipped war. The Roman Empire was less than 50 years from the steam engine when they collapsed.
Well,
War
they used
has
that Archimedes engine, right? That spun around,
Mhm.
during the Greek period. I'm pretty sure Archimedes developed something like that that would He could heat it and it would spin,
The
because a little jet on either end.
the acoust and I can't say it right. It's the
The
acoustic
mechanism?
and is that the one that's the computer?
Yeah, the Star Trek.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Navigation instrument, very detailed, very and it seems to be the unique.
yeah,
You don't see any more of them. Where the heck did that come from? I think it fell off an alien spacecraft personally.
and maybe. I'm gonna go with maybe there, but,
Exactly,
were
please.
there were lots of technological advancements, and we don't know how much technology we've actually lost because of there have been several libraries that have burned. We've set ourselves back several times. And so,
Will
honestly,
we
we
do it
don't
again?
and we're getting ready to do it again. And, I just I think that the opportunity right now, because of how accelerated everything is, that we do have the time to pause and ask these questions. What is our future going to look like in 50 years? And do we want to live in that future? Or do we want to do something entirely different? Because I don't think that robots carrying guns is a step up in evolution. Really, I don't. Actually, I really, really don't.
And that's the pressure that, Anthropic is having put on it to loosen the guardrails,
Yeah.
by
And that's
Pete Buttigieg, the, Secretary of Defense, as I hear it. I don't know if that's being sensationalized or not. Fact check it, folks. Another
well,
thing,
their
I
safety
just like to
security
read.
guy left.
We were talking about the data mining thing, right? I'd like to
Mhm.
back up into that a little bit and read a little bit of what I just pulled up and just plunked in. I think I plunked it in. Maybe it's too long to go in. Okay, so I'll just read it. So the idea that data is being mined and commoditized is widely supported by experts who often describe it as the new oil of the modern economy. Whether it is being used against us is a more complex ethical debate with evidence on both sides. And I think I would agree with you that it's being used to manipulate us at the very least. So here it says how data is mined and commoditized. Data aggregation. Data brokers collect billions of pieces of personally identifiable information, including this podcast,
Mhm.
from diverse sources to build detailed profiles of individuals.
Mhm.
So the economy of surveillance, government agencies and private companies purchase this data to monitor online behavior, track locations, and influence individual decisions. So when I ask, where are you and how are you? I'm trying to get your data. I'm just but value extraction. The organizations use complex algorithms to identify patterns in consumer habits, selling these insights to advertisers to target people more effectively. So you may think you're making your own decisions, but are you? Arguments the data is being used against us. Experts point to several ways this commodification can harm individuals. Number one is manipulation. Data is used to outsmart feelings and influence choices from what products to buy to how to vote. Now, my friend, the behaviorist, Jennifer in
Mhm.
Haddock, she will probably get right in there and talk about how we really aren't steering our own ships. Um, there's discrimination. Profiling can lead to unfair outcomes, such as higher insurance premiums, difficulty in getting a job,
Mhm.
which I feel like I'm having, though this is my job right now, or being marked as, quote, high risk by law enforcement based on biased data. And I expect if they haven't marked me as high risk, they oughta. Loss of autonomy. The quote, big data divide means companies often know more about a person than the person knows about themselves, leaving individuals with little agency over their own digital identity. And that's what
Mhm.
you were talking about with the meta thing. Privacy breaches. Massive data sets are targets for cyber attacks, leading to identity theft and the exposure of sensitive personal information, as we should all know. The source, by the way, being quoted is Harvard University plus four other sources. Um, Counter arguments, data for benefit. So here's the upside, because we really ought to look at the upside too, right?
Of course.
Conversely, proponents argue that data mining provides significant societal value. One is in healthcare, predicting disease outbreaks, personalizing treatment plans, and accelerating drug discovery. Safety, enhance fraud detection in banking and assist law enforcement in crime prevention. efficiency, optimizing logistics to reduce fuel consumption, which I was on about earlier, and helping business manage inventory more effectively. Just in time delivery, that type of thing. As we move into 2026, the focus has shifted toward data governance with new regulations attempting to ensure that these mined insights are used ethically and transparently. So that's good news. Over to you.
So this, in my perception, erodes agency, because how do I know if I am authentically being myself when I am being imperceptibly nudged continually by my own environment?
Right. How do you know you're an authentic human being?
So, and I mean, and we can get very philosophical really, really quickly about this. At the end of the day, we know that observer effect is real. And we know that the observed is affected by the observation. So, subconsciously or consciously, we're being perpetually observed, which does, in fact, change our behavior. This is scientific.
Mhm.
And so, if you're carrying around the thing that is continually surveilling you, if you're living in self-maintenancing homes and your car you can get in your car and your car knows where you need to go before you tell the car that it needs to go somewhere, how do you know that you made the decision to go to that place in the first place?
Right. Maybe you didn't. Maybe you're being run like a little puppet.
And so is that ethical, to turn the entire species into Pinocchio?
I think my nose might grow if I say.
And so then I have to ask the question, who's really pulling the strings here?
Well, here's the answer I got from about a question I've made. Erosion of agency is a concern. How do I know I'm being myself versus being manipulated? Right? That's the question.
Right.
That is the central psychological dilemma of the 21st century, Gemini answers. When algorithms are designed to bypass your conscious mind and trigger your dopamine system, because I like to push that little lever,
Oh, yeah, of
right?
course, and it is a
Um,
slot machine.
the line between I want this and I was prompted to want this becomes incredibly thin. To determine if you are exercising true agency or reacting to an algorithmic nudge, you can look for these three signs. One is the impulse versus intent test. Manipulated, you find yourself scrolling or bullying or buying rather something without a clear why. It feels like an itch you're scratching. This is the often the result of persuasive design, infinite scrolls, red notification dots. Agency, you have specific goal before you open the app. You go in, get the information, and leave. If you intended to spend 5 minutes but spend 50, your agency was temporarily hijacked. Oh, there you go. If you've been on this podcast for 38 minutes, you've been hijacked.
You're welcome.
Um, it's coming up. The emotional aftertaste is number two. Manipulated after a session on a platform, you feel drained, anxious, or a sense of brain fog. This happens when an algorithm has fed you outrage or comparison based content to keep you engaged. Aha. And
Mhm.
then agency, you feel a sense of accomplishment, connection, or genuine rest. You choose the activity and it served you rather than serving the platform's engagement metrics. And then number three was, um, I didn't put this in the chat, but it's predictability and echoing. Manipulated your thoughts and opinions perfectly mirror your feed. If your world feels like a hall of mirrors where everyone agrees with you and the other side seems inhuman, you are likely inside a filter bubble. Agency, you find yourself disagreeing with your own side occasionally. You seek out long form content or books that aren't being pushed by a recommended for you engine, and how to reclaim yourself. This is probably the important thing. I might have even go ahead and copy that part. Or maybe I'll copy both of those, but put them into the chat for anybody who's following along with the chat. And boom, we're coming up to hitting the arrow, and then it says how to reclaim yourself, digital fasting. And I recommend this. There's actually a book called 24/6 about taking a technology Sabbath. by
Mhm.
Tiffany Shlain. I will plug her. She's also the developer of or originator of the Webby Awards and has a great movie out there called Connected. How to reclaim yourself. Digital fasting. The only way to know your baseline self is to step away for 24 to 48 hours. When the digital noise stops, what do you actually think about? Manual search. Instead of letting the feed find you, use manual search. Don't click up next. Um, Analog interventions. Write with a pen, walk without a podcast, or talk to someone face to face. These are unmineable moments where an algorithm cannot track or influence your reaction in real time. So, my passing show is walking with a podcast in some ways, but it's me actually filming what's presenting itself to my camera.
Right,
I don't think that's actually it, and that's mineable, right? And I want it to be mineable. I want historians of the future to see the world I was living in and how
right,
it's going and preserve and protect that in hopes that it might benefit somebody else down the road.
right.
My hope is always to try to benefit others, and I think if our intent is that, we're doing the right thing. We're trying to be good ancestors for your kids.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, and
and there's
appreciate it. You know? But I don't think it's ever been as complicated to be a human as it is right now,
no.
and which again, it makes it very interesting to see where it's gonna go, and I'm really curious to see where we're gonna be in, 30, 40 years. Um,
This
you
is a
know
hot topic, and where we were 30 or 40 years ago,
Yeah, yeah.
and that what's happened, the cause and effect loops that have
Mm,
happened,
mhm.
I don't know, man. I just keep on looking and I'm like, "Wow, how about that?"
It and yeah, it's really interesting to see how we're adapting and to see the generational gaps and what's, really valuable versus what because our technology has created a lot of friction points for us.
Yeah.
But it has also accelerated so many things, so really, we still have lots of work to do. I don't think that stepping back 100 years or whatever is the answer. Turning the grid off is not the answer. But putting in 5-mile data centers or what, like, these are not answers either. We have to have proper resource management. We have to engineer with the human in mind first, and we have to understand what the technology is actually doing so we stop having all of these questions. And transparency is really one of the biggest solutions to a lot of the social issues that we're having. If everybody would just start telling the truth about where this technology is actually going and what it is actually doing, that would obviously squash a lot of the what if conversation. And I think that that is really important. If you're going to be, data mining, then there needs to be a compensation package for the person that was mined. And the compensation package is not that I get better ads, so you can make more ad revenue. No. No. You need to pay me for my data. If you're gonna use my data, you need to pay me.
I like that. Talk more.
Well, it just when I designed my platform, one of the big things for me ethically was what type of data we were going to collect, how that data was going to be used. This is huge. And so, one of the things that I decided that needed to happen there was that you could opt in or out of your data being used, being collected. And there's a difference between collection and mining. Collection is a universal benefit, mining is not.
Yep. Yep.
And so, if I ask your permission to opt into the collection, then that serves you and it serves the platform.
And
And
and while being offered something for it in terms of like a micropayment or a
Right,
micro thing.
and so this is the exchange rate there because the throughput for you becomes enhanced,
Yeah.
and it becomes individualized, tailored information for you to support your creativity and your throughput.
Yeah, and one of the things we were talking about a little earlier that I decided to, throw into the chat here is the human-centered AI engineering. That's the
Mhm.
way I interpreted what you were saying. We gotta be human-centered about
Yes.
it, right?
Yes.
We can't be doing these 5-mile data centers, I think you said?
Yeah.
You got a data center going up very close to you, right?
So I haven't heard anything else about the data center around me, but
Okay.
I know that there are several that are slated to go in
They
with
suppressed it
yeah. Yeah,
to keep
well,
keep you all from raising the hue and cry.
we yeah, yeah, there's some things going on at my local town hall that definitely need an eyebrow or 25 raised at them or whatever,
You
like, there's
doing that?
definitely yeah, and I live in a very good community, so I think that I don't think that they're gonna be able to ramrod it through. There are enough of us that have been here long enough that I don't think too many of us would sell. I don't think they're gonna be able to get enough land together to do what they want.
I see. Well, let me talk a little about this Gemini thing says about human-centered AI engineering. It's moved from a theoretical ethics discussion to a rigorous technical discipline focused on augmentation rather than replacement. Industry leaders now treat human centered AI as a standard for building reliable, safe, and trustworthy systems
Mhm,
that keep humans in a meaningful control while using high levels of automation. The current state of the field in early 2026 is we're going from black box to glass box. Engineering teams are increasingly adopting explainable AI to ensure model decisions are transparent and understandable to the users they affect. Agentic oversight as AI shifts from single chatbots to autonomous agents, like I was talking about how
mhm.
Grok 4.2 beta is now 4 different agents that
Yeah.
do the work on different areas. And it seems to work pretty nicely. I'm enjoying it. And anyway, meaningful human control is the focus there, though. They execute multi-step tasks, and it's moved to that MHC. They're calling it meaningful human control. This involves building real-time override checkpoints and audit trails directly into the architecture. Standardized frameworks, academic and industry bodies like Stanford's HAI have established maturity models, e.g., the HCAI-MM, that would be human-centered a artificial intelligence maturity model to help organizations move from ad hoc AI to metric-driven, human-centric experience. And then there's the augmented engineer. Software engineering itself is transformed, and by 2026, the most valuable engineers are those who can orchestrate AI systems while applying human judgment to high level design, strategy, and ethical validation. Emergent mind is the link there. They're talking about the core engineering principles, which include, and can I make it scroll? Yes, I can. The technical implementation and the principles are augmentation is the principle. Systems are designed to provide a second opinion or handle repetitive subtasks, transparency, inclusivity, human agency, and the real world applications include in healthcare, accessibility, enterprise. Companies like Microsoft and IBM are shifting from one shot AI pilots to context aware partnerships where human and AI co create in iterative loops. Um, now, this is not addressing the hardware and the, data centers that are being engineered and making
Right.
those human-centered. I think that's really what I was gonna be going after, and maybe I will later. But let's go back to what you were talking about, because I think that was a pretty interesting thread we were into.
It's just, it's really important to understand what what is being done, what the end result is, and what the effect is on the creator of the data. It is as the job markets are changing and, you know, tangible labor is being transferred over to more autonomous systems, we need to be concerned with where our funds are going to come from. And I think that it's perfectly reasonable as the generator of the data to be compensated. And I don't want better I don't want a better ad algorithm. I
Yeah.
want
Yeah.
I don't need to know what type of jacket I've been dying to buy that I didn't know that I needed. I need to know useful information that is going to help me get through my day better. And I don't need my thought processes interrupted perpetually.
No.
I don't need to be perpetually distracted. There's this whole thing that, you know, the attention span, the versus, you know, your generation's attention span versus even my generation's attention span. There's a big gap. And you get into modern humans, you know, like where we are right now, we're like 5 to 8 seconds. And we're over it. I mean, we're in goldfish territory.
We are, and, it
The
is amazing that we are, and I like book length stuff. I'm reading this one right now, Harry
Yeah,
Warriors by Mitch Horowitz. Mitch Horowitz is on Substack, by the way. I highly recommend people look him up. He's also on The Unbelievable with Dan Aykroyd fairly often as one of the talking heads. But yeah, books, I don't think people are reading books a lot, and eh, sitting down with a book and just reading it cover to cover, it's been a while for me. I tend
right.
to do bits and bites of things, get an idea, and then decide, "Oh, I gotta write."
Mhm.
And then I write something, and it's usually not book length. It's usually sometimes it's just like blurb length. Other
Right.
times it's a little longer. I did a long form thing called, Gratitude for Everything.
Mhm.
If you can have gratitude for your pain, you're in good shape.
Yeah. And there's definitely some religious overlap there, you know, different ideological systems, Buddhists embrace suffering, you know, there's a great deal. There's a lot to be learned from suffering, but
Yeah.
we don't have to augment or lengthen our suffering for it to be meaningful, and we definitely don't need to be suffering at the hand of technology. And we definitely need to look at the ramifications there. One of the things that I've been doing recently in my, digital interactions is I have been gray rocking the interface. And so gray rocking is a technique that you use with narcissistic people.
Ooh,
And what it means is that you are starving them of input. A gray rock is completely uninteresting. So you only tell it the absolute most pertinent information without any type of emotional contaminants. I need A plus B so C can happen. That's it. No emotion, no context. And I've talked about giving lots of context and stuff. And in certain conversations, yes, absolutely, you do need to give context, just not emotional context. The emotional context is secondary to the goal. And if your goal is to not be data mined, gray rocking is one of the best things that you can do. And if you want your throughput with your AI to go like nuclear, then again, gray rocking. It doesn't need any other information than the problem and the goal. That's it. Nothing else. And you can get some really, really good results there.
yeah, may I? The gray rock method is a psychological strategy used to manage interactions with manipulative or toxic individuals by becoming as uninteresting and emotionally unresponsive as a gray rock, like you said.
Yeah.
The goal is to starve the other person of the attention, drama, or emotional fuel they seek, eventually causing them to lose interest and move on. I think I've been gray rocked. How to practice gray rocking. To implement this method, you must consciously minimize your engagement during an unavoidable interactions. Brief responses stick to short one word or non-committal answers like, okay, I don't know. Mhm. Emotional neutrality. Maintain a flat tone or an impassive facial expression regardless of provocations or baiting.
Mhm.
Limit information. Avoid sharing personal details, opinions, or any information about your life that could be used against you. Physical disengagement, minimize eye contact, and use neutral body language to signal a lack of interest. Consistency. Avoid being hot and cold. If you react emotionally even once, it may encourage the person to keep testing your boundaries. I did react emotionally recently to a situation, and I might actually use it as an example, but I don't know if I want to get into it. When to use and avoid this method. Gray rocking is primarily a short term for situations where you cannot completely cut off contact. Use it for dealing with toxic coworkers, high conflict co parenting, or manipulative family members you must see regularly. Avoid it for situations involving physical violence or severe threats. In these cases, gray rocking can lead to an extinction burst where the abuser escalates their behavior to regain control. It's not for healthy relationships. This form of emotional detachment and will damage relationships you actually want to maintain. Potential risks and challenges, emotional exhaustion, suppressing your natural instincts and emotions can be mentally draining and lead to internal stress or numbness over time. Escalation, an abuser may become angry or try new tactics such as love bombing, showering you with affection, or
Mhm.
hoovering, creating a fake crisis to suck you back into the drama. Loss of self. Prolonged use can make you feel disconnected from your own identity or authentic feelings. The note is that experts recommend seeking professional guidance from a therapist before attempting this method, especially in potentially abusive situations, to ensure your safety and well being. And there are so many people in this world who are damaged.
Mhm.
I like to say we're like traumatized primates, and the trauma begins at birth. You've
Mhm.
given birth. I
Yeah.
haven't, but you probably found it a traumatizing experience, I would expect,
Oh,
right?
yeah. Oh, yeah.
And the child is traumatized at that moment also, thrown into the world
Mhm.
and kinda helpless and
Yeah.
dependent on the goodwill of someone.
Right. Well, we're not done gestating when we're born. So,
That can't
you
be because of the head
yeah.
size.
Yeah. So,
Kill you otherwise, or
yeah.
need to be cesareaned all the time.
Yeah.
It's awful, right?
It
But and the
I
evolution, in general, people talk about intelligent design. Have you looked at how our knees are configured or the male I mean, this is either incompetence, sadism, or both. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, but back to the gray rocking your AI thing,
Yeah. Yeah,
it
yeah.
it can it can become a very useful tool, especially when you don't want your projects to be contaminated. And, humans, we are very leaky containers and we leak energy all over the place. So you might not even be intending to leak that emotional energy or that anxiety, but, the AI will mirror all of that back to you. So if you do the gray rock thing with your AI prompting, and I'm talking about in your business. If you're doing something emotional with AI, like there was a person on Substack that was talking about using AI to, get their health back in alignment. And I'm like, yeah, that's great. Well, obviously, you need to talk about your feelings there. Like, I feel this way. It makes me feel that way. Obviously, you're going to have to use your discernment, your human thought process, and how to use these tools. But it's my job to give useful ideas to other humans. And so I have found gray rocking in my AI work, my business work to be incredibly useful. I don't tell it, "Hey, I've got a deadline that's 3 days past and I'm freaking out over here. Can you give me the solution to the problem?" No, the the time has lapsed. I have had to extend past deadline. What is the solution? Give me the best 3 solutions. I don't give it any of the emotional context. It doesn't need to know that I'm freaking out. It already knows I'm freaking out because of statistical data. Humans, we freak out. Is what we do. So, but it gives it the opportunity to actually focus on the solution. It also trains your neural pathways to be looking for the solution versus just exclusively focusing on the emotional context.
Well, this is very helpful, and just, threw in there that I think I've been gray rocked, recently, and what happened was a kind of interesting situation. On Saturday, I stood up for myself when I felt that I was being abused, and I did not like that. And I did it in a context that was kind of, I thought, appropriate, and I used some rather strong terms because I was pissed, quite frankly.
Right, right,
And then I think I've been gray rocked because now I'm part of this group for years, and I got removed 3 times, or 4, actually, if I count all of them. Um, and I was, like, by the host of a Zoom meeting, right? And I'm like, no word of explanation for it, it's just happening. I'm like, "Is it a mistake?" Well, 4 times is kinda hard to say that's a mistake.
right,
They're actually tossing me out and basically giving me no feedback about it at all. Because I stood up for myself, and I did it in a forceful way, and I
right,
could have probably chosen my words more carefully. I probably could have been sweeter about it, but I'm pissed. I don't want to give them the impression that it's okay to abuse me,
right,
and then the way I felt it was abuse. I think from their perspective, they were just, like, being nice, but they were handing me this left-handed compliment, calling me cerebral, which I don't like. 'Cause I don't think I am cerebral, I think I'm just paying attention, right? I might have a few more brain cells than other people, I don't know, but who cares? We're all equal, we're differently, you know, accoutré, we have different accoutrements, right?
mhm.
But when it comes down to it, I'm no better n worse than anybody else, I don't think, and I would hope you feel that way too,
I
but when I say that to people, apparently it inflames them. They get upset because I look like I do and I talk like I do, and I obviously have a fairly decent vocabulary. Maybe it's a little bigger than other people's. I don't care. I don't think that's significant. I think that it's important. So here's what they say. I think I've been gray rocked for having stood up for myself recently. The AI returned, that is a painful realization. There is a distinct difference between someone using gray rocking to protect themselves and someone using the silent treatment or ghosting
Mhm.
as a weapon to punish you for setting a boundary. And I think actually I wasn't gray rocked.
Right,
I'm,
yeah,
I'm being given silent treatment, and I'm
mhm.
being also ejected from being able to offer what I have to offer to those who might otherwise not get it offered because I have a unique way of spinning my recovery story. Right.
Right,
Actually, it's very attuned with what AA.org actually says, where most people are pretty happy to use cutesy little phrases that may or may not be effective and helpful. And a lot of people get very dependent on other people's opinions and popularity, which is not really where it's at because honestly, one of these days you're not going to be popular and well, an awful lot of people die of this condition. And the reason they die of it, in my view, is because they consciously make a choice, like I have in the past, to put my hand on a beverage with alcohol in it. And it's really that simple. The World Health Organization has determined that there is no safe amount of alcohol for human consumption, period.
period.
And that is also something I toss out there. And I toss out the fact that if I don't put my hand on it, I'm not going to get it in my system. I said that on Friday and somebody got really inflamed and said, if it was just a matter of that, I wouldn't need this. And I was like, yeah, well, that's not what I said entirely, but you focus in on that and got really mad in the meeting and it clearly was referring to what I was saying, which is not kosher. That's not how it's supposed to work. We've had this discussion in the past in our little what we call a group conscience, which is like
Mhm.
a spiritual entity gets together and figures it out. So anyway, that's what this first paragraph was. And then the rest of it is when you stand up for yourself and the other person suddenly becomes a gray rock, it often isn't about them being healthy. It's the defensive withdrawal or a way to make you feel crazy or invisible for having a voice. And I think that's probably more accurate. And then
Right.
it gives you how to tell the difference. Healthy boundary. If they say, I need space because this conversation is getting heated, and then went quiet, that's a self regulation. I could probably deal with that. Manipulation, punishment, if they simply shut down, give you one word answers, or refuse to acknowledge your feelings specifically because you challenge their behavior, they are likely using stonewalling to regain power. And I think that's probably more accurate
Right.
from my perspective. And I'm getting it from Gemini, who's an impartial observer. What happens to you internally? Being on the receiving end of this feels like social death. It's designed to make you, one, doubt your reality. Was I too harsh when I stood up for myself? Well, I probably was, to be honest. Two, to overcompensate. You might find yourself apologizing or dancing to get a reaction out of them just to feel seen again. Three, lose your agency. It effectively mutes the boundary you just tried to set. How to handle being rocked. One is don't chase. The more you try to crack the rock, the more power they feel. If you said your piece, let it sit. Seems like good. Validate yourself. Remind yourself, I stood up for myself because it was necessary. Their silence is their choice, not a reflection of my worth. Very good. Mirror the energy briefly. If they are giving you nothing, give them nothing back for a while. Use that energy to focus on your own sacred self, the person they are trying to ignore. Did the person shut down immediately after you set the boundary, or was it a slow fade into this cold behavior? It asks me. I am going to tell it immediate, pretty much, because yeah, it's weird. I know what is happening now pretty well. I thought maybe up until yesterday that it was some sort of error happening, and it may have been caused by my choice of background, where I decided to put a background up that said, "The trick is to care about everybody, but not care what they think," which is kind of a pointed message. So,
Right.
remove me there. And then I went on with just my picture from my, Christmas parade where I'm in a Santa hat which says Fife and Drum Alumni on it, and I'm smiling brightly because I'm with my friend Pamda, and, I like her, and she's funny, and she's married to my one of my best friends from childhood. But you get my point. Basically, when we are interacting with human beings and we're traumatized primates, we're setting off all kinds of different dynamics, and groups in particular in Zoom, where it's not geographically, contiguous, where you don't see people eye to eye.
Mhm.
It can become a power control thing. Groups of people tend to primates, we tend to start to act out in certain ways that are not healthy. And most of us are a little too scared to say anything because you don't want to be an outcast in this group. For one,
Right.
we're dealing with a life or death kind of situation. We have principles we're to practice in all our affairs. Failure to do so can be fatal.
Mhm.
Point. And I know that this group has been trending in this direction of personalities versus principles, and that's really dangerous. And I don't usually get out there with my recovery story so much, but I think this is a really important point because there are a lot of people who approach this. And actually, in 1965, I've been doing some writing about this lately. The co-founder of Alcoholics Anonymous owned that. About 1,000,000 people had approached AA, but there were only about 350,000 strong recoveries. And why was that? And he put it at the hands of the fellowship being arrogant and, being counterproductive to people being able to receive the gift, which is that you are unconditionally loved and accepted as you are. And
Right.
you don't have to anesthetize yourself to survive being in civilization. And so many of us do anesthetize ourselves in one way or the other, whether it's with social media, whether it's with AI chatbots, whether it's with, and that's bringing all back home here. Let's talk more about the AI world
So, well,
and gray rock.
the reason that I brought up gray rocking pertaining to technology is because if you are concerned about giving away pieces of your emotional self to the algorithm, this is one of the best ways that I have found to not give away those pieces that you don't want to give away. And, pertaining to sovereignty of mind, I'm not talking about disconnecting yourself emotionally from self first or from, the people that are around you. That's not what I'm talking about. Being able to protect your emotional bandwidth when you're doing work or when you're doing deep self introspection, because we are not our emotions, we are not our thoughts, we are the consciousness that gets to experience all of that and derive some type of meaning from the input. And so it's really important that we are able to acknowledge each other as sacred beings without being threatened by each other's emotional nuance. And, if you've met one human, you've met one human. And
Yeah.
we are all unique. And but once you get past the superficial uniqueness, we all have things in common. And that's why being being able to sit with yourself and regulate yourself is really important for social interaction, either with an AI agent or with a fellow person. And we've been running agents in our heads for a long time. I anthropomorphize different aspects of my personality so that I'm able to interact with them better. And I've found that really did turn down a lot of chatter, and it's also given me an opportunity to be able to understand myself better, and through understanding myself better, I've been able to interact with other.
Oh, you froze. Are you back? I don't know, maybe her, phone lost power. No, there's connectivity, you're back.
Oh,
Say again. Back
oh,
up about, 15 seconds.
oh, sorry. I just I think that, being able to show that compassion for ourselves allows us to be able to extend that compassion to other people, because once you understand how dynamic you are in yourself, you can start to appreciate other people's dynamics. And
Mm,
we all have our idiosyncrasies. We're driven by id, we're driven by ego. There's that constant internal friction that goes on. We're seeing the macro as we've been experiencing the micro all of this time.
yes, and that's what I'm seeing in general in the interactions within the fellowship, which should be the most kind and loving and accepting fellowship in the world.
The should and are
And
always different.
well, yeah, but, we have principles we're to practice in all our affairs.
Right.
I've done some research in that, and what I've found is that there's some people who absolutely are against practicing the principles in all their affairs. They've chosen not to, and these are suggested steps of recovery, by the way. That 12th one has that thing about practicing principles in all our affairs. It's a way of life, supposedly, but I think it's also says something about the effectiveness. What I've noticed is the fellowship has been relatively stable for about the past 50 years. It grew a lot between 1935 and 1975, and then it sort of leveled off.
Mhm,
And there's a lot of other things. There's a lot of other research, a lot of other science going on. Just like our technology has spun up, this is the microcosm.
mhm.
And it's effective when practiced, this way of life, but it's ineffective if not practiced. And of course, the part about not drinking is real important. That's what my old grand sponsor, Lewis Norton, used to say. His book, by the way, I'll go plug that. You know how I go off tangent and plug things on occasion? Boy with Loaded Gun. Whoops, there's a little avalanche there. This is his memoir. You see that kid's
That's
face?
great. Yeah. That's
I mean, that's probably him when he was a baby. And what he says, and I said, autograph copy. Um, what he says here is that he quotes another author and says, "My life has been incredible. I don't believe a word of it. We're unreliable narrators of even our own experiences."
Oh, for sure.
So that's why I like to be in maybe logic, and you did that a little bit ago. You said, "Well, maybe that's true, but maybe it's
No,
not."
but the
Like the
the
I think that was about the space aliens. Anyhow, go ahead.
going back to the technology stuff and the Piccolo S glasses, um, that extends your cognition. You're not going to be allowed to forget anything. And I just wonder, I just have to ask the question what that is ultimately going to do to the human that doesn't get to forget. Like, we are designed, not that we delete information, we don't. The information's always there. It's something from your childhood will surface 40 years later with extreme clarity.
Ah, yeah.
And we do lose meaning, we change meaning in iteration. Of course we do.
Mhm.
But that's part of the natural thing that has worked and served well for a long time. I just have to ask the question, is this good? Is this bad? How are we going to deal with the ramifications of never forgetting anything ever again? What if I wanted to forget that? Then you're gonna have to go in and hard delete files in your memory, in this memory? How do you ethically make those decisions?
I don't know. I have no idea.
Yeah, have you watched Sunshine? Is Eternal Sunshine on a Spotless Mind?
It's something like that. Isn't
It's
that,
Jim Carrey.
Jim Carrey movie?
Mhm.
Yeah, no, so I haven't watched it. I don't
Yeah,
like Jim Carrey.
uh, so that is
I have watched
not
some of his stuff. I watched Bruce Almighty. I
no,
like
and
Bruce Almighty.
so this is Jim Carrey doing something very serious,
Yeah, I've heard.
and
And the Truman Show and yeah.
I'm not a huge Jim Carrey fan. I like things that are I like sarcasm and stuff, and he's just very slapstick. So, but he addresses the character addresses that in the story, and he is going back through, spoiler alert, everybody. He's going back through his memories and selecting what memories he wants to remember or not, and how that's going to affect his life once he doesn't remember them anymore. And I think that that's something that we definitely need to be looking at and exploring. Do we want to delete the pain? Do we want to delete the suffering? What will that do to us when we're no longer learning from those inputs? Not all of us are required to suffer. Some of us is necessary. I've had to learn a lot of things the hard way. I'm an incredibly stubborn person, and I say that I'm a quick learner, and really I'm not. I'm pretty slow at some things.
Well, nothing really trumps lived experience.
Right.
So
And
with wet paint, you gotta touch it.
yeah, yeah. How do you have a
And
flatter
also, a
spot?
lot of us have what I call oppositional defiant disorder. ODD
Absolutely.
for short, which I think is
Mhm,
a nice acronym. We're odd, but,
mhm.
I love that about us, that we will basically not take anybody's suggestions unless we've actually been just given a suggestion,
Right,
which has
right,
nothing attached to it.
right.
If I get advice, as in, "You should do this," I probably won't do it.
No, no.
Just out of principle, you know? About principles. I've just and even though I know it would benefit me right now, for instance, yesterday, I got advice from a guy who suggested I go and apply at Home Depot over on Rhode Island Avenue, which is primarily populated by the African American population of our fair city, and that's fine. I was a really white guy working there, he thought, and I beat the cart return guy. If I get a job as a cart return guy, that's my job, I would get exercise, and if I could just do whatever I want to as long as I bring the carts back, and it's not a bad suggestion. I might actually do it, but I'm still holding out for this other gig that I think I might get, but I don't know because I've
Mhm.
kinda got a mixed message there, and, well, if I do get it, great. If I don't get it, oh well, you know? And what it'll do, of course, it'll put me on the front line of a cafe where a lot of my friends go, a lot of my friends who haven't been nice to me. And maybe at some level or another, I earned that. I don't think I did because I think I'm nice to everybody. I think I treat everybody pretty nicely. But, you never know how people take you. There's a great song. Have you ever heard Pepper by the Butthole Surfers?
Yeah.
You never know just how you look in other people's eyes.
Yeah.
That's the lyric, right?
Mhm. And
And in the chorus. I mean, the rest of it's pretty funny about all these people dying.
yeah, it's And that's the thing, isn't it? Is, we have this personification, that we project out into the world, and then we have this different interpersonal life. And sometimes things don't add up, and you might not be truly aligned within self, and you might not even be aware that you are not. And that's the thing with humans, is that we betray our own nature all of the time. And it's really hard to even be able to understand self, let alone the rest of the world. And I find that a lot of the advice that I give to other people, I should absolutely apply to myself, and oftentimes don't. Like, don't tell me to do something. For the love, I will die before I do the thing that you just told me to do. And it is completely because somebody else told me to do it. And I mean, it runs that deeply with me. But if you ask me to do something, if you ask me a question, if you treat me with dignity, I will treat you with the same kindness. And I think that a lot of people, especially in, the last, 8 to 10 years, we've really gotten away from please and thank you.
Well, yeah, manners, yeah, that's really gone by the boards, sadly. I think, we used to say grace at every meal, every dinner anyway. I
I
don't think
just
we did it at lunch and breakfast, but we did it at dinner. We sat down together as a family, and somebody had to say the blessing
I
before we ate. It was a thing. It just doesn't happen anymore.
Right. One of the things that I like to do is, when I sit down to eat a meal, I like to think about all of the energy it took to put that food on my
Right.
plate.
Right.
All of the
I did that with a cup of
people.
tea recently. So, can you imagine the number of people that had to do things for
Right.
that tea
Yeah.
bag?
Mhm. Yeah. All the man hours and
Right.
the resources, and yeah, and
Mhm.
I'm thankful. And and if that doesn't humble you, I just don't know what would. Because
Well,
if you
people are not conscious of these things. They don't think about those things. They're not consciously aware. They're not mindful, and that's a problem, right? So
Yeah.
we're trying to wake them up. Wake up, people.
It is. And yeah, good morning to you. It is definitely time to be awake
And
and
you know what I
be.
say? Every cent we spend is a
Yeah,
vote for the kind of world we are co-creating, and we are responsible. I am responsible for the world I have co-created with all of you.
right.
You don't like it? Well, I did the best I could.
You're welcome for the field research anyway that you didn't ask for. But in reality, we have to be conscious of where our attention goes. We have to be conscious of where our resources are going, because all of that is supportive of a system. And we all have to engage in systems. Systems are what keeps the civilization running, the social paradigms going. And so you have to choose how to engage in those systems. And I don't think that please and thank you are subservience. I think that that is kindness. And it's not just kindness to the person, it is a kindness to yourself, because you're holding yourself to a standard of kindness, of consideration to the fellow human. I like to not be in a hurry. I will stand and I will wait for someone to walk in front of me, as opposed to cutting them off and having them behind me in some type of mood. I would much rather the controversy move past me than engage in it. And that keeps me out of so much trouble. And if somebody wanted to be mad at me for holding the procession up, well, all you had to do was go around. And you
Yeah.
can't be mad at me for waiting on you to make a decision. If you're confused, I'm confused, because you're sending off confused signals. And so it really is very important for us as humans to understand ourselves and where our attention is, and how best to engage with our technologies and our fellow humans. And I think that one follows the other. So,
Yep.
just being being kind and being thoughtful, and gauging where your emotional energy goes, and gauging where your time goes, these are all very important practices that we need to stay grounded in as our technology does move us forward. Um, it is important to be thankful to the chicken that gave its life and to the workers that, cut your chicken up and then delivered your chicken and all of, just the whole process of all of that or whatever it is that you're eating, the processes are all pretty close. And, just to be thankful that you're at the end of the loop and not the beginning of the loop. It and it really does it puts so much more into perspective and just allowing yourself to be a human is just a really big deal, and we have to take our humanity everywhere we go with each other and not be judging other people and where they are in their process because where I am in my process has no comparison to where somebody else is in their process because we haven't been through the same processes.
Yep. Yeah, but we can share the process we've been through and
And
gain some
yes,
insight.
exactly. And that's the species genesis, right? Is because we can teach each other these concepts and we can save each other time in our processes through shared experience.
Yeah. And that's the whole gist of why the Fellowship of AA came together was to share experience, strength, and hope of how we get from dawn to dusk and back again without taking a drink. So there's a lot of things there. I talk about that a fair amount because it's so important. I think that people be relieved of the compulsion to drink if possible. Those of you who still do, remember the World Health Organization says there's no safe amount, and it is a carcinogen. So whenever we're doing this, we're taking a risk. And I would highly recommend that people learn that you don't need it. It's not required. You might enjoy it, but then again, look closely at what price you're paying. It's like smoking. I mean, smoking is the same thing. We used to smoke a lot. Just about everybody did. And we didn't know what we didn't know because the industry basically suppressed, the information as much as
Mhm.
they could because they were making so much money on it. But all you have to do these days is take your AI agent and say, "Run a cost-benefit analysis on the effects of alcohol on the global economy," and it comes up quite negative.
Very.
And then your health. I mean, I'm healthy right now. I'm 63 years old, I'm on no medications. How many people can say that? Why can so few people say that? A lot of it has to do with the fact we have for-profit health insurance companies,
Mhm,
big pharma, and these are industries that are pulling wealth, extracting, and we talk
mhm,
a lot about extracting from the creative people of this world
mhm.
their wealth to be and to keep them in fear.
Yeah,
Fear that your health won't be right if you don't get on Ozempic today, you know, or whatever it is. Where
eh,
as opposed to eating healthy, let
yeah,
thy medicine be thy food, or let
yeah,
thy food be thy medicine, is so good. And, my wife was in a program called FA, for Food Addicts in Recovery
mhm,
Anonymous. They are rigid, but without being able to exercise, and she's half paralyzed from a stroke, she was able to drop 80 pounds in 8 months by just changing her diet
yeah,
and
th
eating a reasonable 3 meals a day,
mhm,
but with community support. And, this is so important, community support, right?
mhm,
So I'm
yeah,
gonna do a pitch as we're wrapping up here. We got almost at the 90-minute mark,
yeah,
and, thank you so much for being my guest again.
yeah,
Um Subscribe to people.
yeah,
Paid subscriptions actually support this whole platform and enable us to do what we're doing, in
mhm,
addition to supporting the creative workers who are here doing this work together. I can't keep doing it on my own, so I'm
mhm,
gonna need your support, and I'm getting your support, not you personally, but you all who might be watching, and it's not that hard, and it's not that much. If you can't do that, buy me a coffee, I have that. If not, you can't do that, amplify my signal through the noise. That's
yeah,
not hard to do. You just click a button that says restack or restack with a note, even better, to say a little something about it. Take a
Mhm.
few keystrokes. Like some of the people here, Angel Woods has been giving us a lot of feedback. Um, it's not that hard to help other people be heard and to listen to them. Now you got the microphone for the last minute or so, huh?
So, the big takeaway here is to stop replacing community with other things,
Right.
whether it's a pharmaceutical, whether it's a device, the mechanism matters very little, but we need to be in contact. We need to be in contact with ourselves and with each other and not be perpetually disrupted. And what is that?
That was briefly, the Traveling Wilburys Handle with Care first chords. I was just
Oh,
trying to get the to it to throw into the chat for fun, because Handle with Care is really a good song, and, we need to handle each other with care.
absolutely.
I've been beat up, I've been battered around, been
Yeah,
shot down, all those lyrics that are in this song. And I used it in one of my, rather longer posts recently, was called Gratitude for Everything.
right.
Because even if I get a box of darkness from a friend, that too is a gift. Mary Oliver said that, in a poem that she said came to her in a dream. Uh,
Right.
um, I also like YouTube, so I threw in the lyrics to YouTube from genius.com there. If somebody wanted to click on that link, they could get them. One, you familiar with that song?
Mm-mm.
It basically says, "Is it getting better, or do you feel the same? Is it gonna be easier now that you've got someone to blame?" But and then the lyric overall is one life, one love. We get basically, we get to carry each other,
Right, and we're
and
all
it's a
walking each other.
very rich, beautiful song. So,
Yeah.
it's about a breakup, really. It's not about it's not the but people use it a lot in weddings and stuff.
Oh, yeah, that's like that
Being
sting
conscious of the
song.
fact it's about breaking up.
See, and we get things wrong perpetually, and I think,
Because we're
it's just
shallow. There's a movie called Shallow Hal?
yes,
It's
I've
very
seen that.
insulting.
Mm.
Jack
It
Black, I think, was in it.
it
Yeah.
it in the end, we are all walking each other home, and it's just
Mhm.
really important that we remain human and that we offer help to each other walking home. And, here on Substack, that can be subscribing to someone's channel, it can be buying a coffee, restacking. I love getting, the comments. Oh my goodness, I get some of the best comment feedback. My subscribers are just some of the most fabulous people I've met in the digital world, and maybe I am a little biased, but really I do enjoy that, and you never really know how much of a lift you can give someone else through just a couple of sentences. So, be kind,
Yes, big
really and
time.
truthfully, and, pass those messages along to each other. That's the point in all of this social media is to be social. And for me, that means a positive interaction. And, so I just think that it's really important that we are kind to each other and that we do help each other. Um, if any of what I'm saying hits home for you, DM me. I have consulting slots that are still open. I've got 2 left. And, I'm just really interested in helping other people organize their thoughts and to be able to get good throughput with their AI or in life in general. I really do think it is very important that we reach out and help each other.
Yeah,
So, and thank you,
thank you.
Hal, because
Yeah, no,
you're providing an opportunity for lots of people to reach out and to help each other and to make these connections. And it wouldn't be possible without you sitting here today. So much appreciation to you, Hal.
yeah, thank you so much, and let's do it again. Let's see you Friday.
Yeah, Friday's
Maybe
great.
we'll see each other some other time too. I mean, I think that it might be fun to get on with some of our other friends we've met through this. Lee
For
is a
sure.
wrecking chair.
I love talking to Lee. He is so much fun. He's so much fun. He did a thing, during the blizzard a few days ago,
Yeah.
and that was awesome because at the end of that video, there's this great building that oh, it's great. Totally go look at Lee Penman and his Substack 'cause he does some great stuff over there, and
Yep, I don't think he joined us here today, but,
he
he's probably
probably
busy.
works.
He's got a lot of work
Yeah,
to do for Colette.
yeah,
And,
yeah.
2 of them, doing, some biohacking stuff. So,
Mhm. Very good stuff.
actually, they got together with Gabriella or are going to very soon. I forget whether it's already happened or not. But, Gabriella over in Hungary, have you met
Yes.
her yet?
Yeah, yeah. I actually I podcasted with her and Lee a little bit,
Oh,
we
right.
had gotten off,
I
yeah,
just had to
so
slip out and then slip back in.
yeah, yeah.
I had to go down to my interview actually at this, Daily Provisions, and so, yeah, I'm
Right.
still hanging.
Mhm.
Haven't nailed the job yet, but, it might happen.
It's gonna happen, I
If I
believe.
do, there's to be something else. I mean, I might actually take a job in my field again or something like that. I don't want to because I love doing this.
Right.
Light
Yeah.
inside. This is my work, as I
Mhm.
Oh, and by the way, if you wanna support a good cause, SAVA, a solution in sight. That is, restoring sight to the unnecessarily blind around the world. They've restored sight to over 5,000,000 people already, and, it's a great cause, SAVA.org. So I'll put that in the chat too. And, we've got Fair AI Economy and New Foundations Initiative to look at, so do that. And I'll let you go. Thank you so much.
Right. Thank you, Hal, have a good one.
You too. Where's the off button? There it is. Anyway, always great to have Origin. I hope you all enjoyed this. It did run a little long, but that's the way it goes. And I'm out here. Be the change you want to see in the world, folks.